Hello, hello. Uh, Big respect to your oblast from my oblast. Very nice to see you tonight. Tonight we will have a bit different stream because instead of updates, I decided to dedicate it to Russian propaganda and more specifically the most popular Russian myths because Russians keep spreading and sharing them using their bots. As for their bots, a couple of days ago, Ukrainian security service in Zaporizhia raided a Russian bot farm that consisted of a couple of men that were using multiple fake accounts, and more than 2,000 SIM cards were confiscated. So we're talking about more than 2,000 unique users that were used to spread Russian propaganda around the internet. So next time you see those funny people spreading stuff about 8 years of dumping bombas, most obviously they are fake, and there's like one person behind thousands of fake accounts. But first of all, before we begin, I want to announce one very important thing. So we are forming new assault brigades in the National Guard of Ukraine that will deoccupy currently Russian occupied territories of Ukraine, and my brigade is proudly one of them. We received a new name. We were we had a very long name for a brigade, 4th Operative Brigade, named after the hero of Ukraine, Sergeant Serhiy Mikhalchuk of the National Guard of Ukraine. Our brand name was Rapid Response Brigade of the National Guard. Right? So now we are called the Frontier. In Ukrainian, it sounds like Rubizh, and I think that you probably know the origin of this word. And here we have this. Oh my God, he ran away. This handsome Ukrainian guardsman representing my brigade all over Ukraine on billboards and stuff. And you probably saw this guy in one of my videos because in the beginning of the invasion we recorded that famous message to Russian soldiers together. He's a sergeant major of my brigade. Okay. First of all, I would like to start with such myth that is still used, guys. Like, even after a year of cooperating with numerous international people, volunteers, organizations, charities, and whatever, we are still Nazi. Why? So, like, whenever they say in the commentaries, like, Ukrainian Nazi, first question is why? What makes people Nazi? And obviously, hate crimes, spreading Nazi propaganda, and things like that, there is no equality in regimes ruled by countries ruled by Nazi regimes, right? Nazi are people who believe that they are supreme over other people. I don't know, probably they think that they are smarter, stronger, have the coolest church in the world, their sportsmen are the best, they have the coolest non-destructible helicopters, and weapons that don't have analogs and things like that. We are different. And here I want you to meet this man known as Mikhail Zadornov. He died, luckily, but he was the most famous Russian stand-up comedian. He was like hero of Russia, okay? And he became hero because at some point he decided to make those stand-ups against people who live on the West. And usually his stand-up comedies started with these words: "Они тупые, they are stupid." And he, like, most of them were bad, okay? But in all of his comedies, he spoke about stupid Americans, stupid French, stupid British, stupid Europeans, gay Europeans, and yada yada. And he was talking about our people. And by our people, he meant Russians, Belarusians, and Ukrainians, of course, because, Russians believe that we are brotherly nations. That's exactly why they attack us. But when you start talking to different when you start talking to different Russian propagandists, okay, or pro-Russian propagandists or bots, and start asking how many hate crimes were committed in Ukraine versus other nations, because Ukrainians are so Nazi. Probably like thousands of Jewish, Muslim, Asian, you name it, black people were tortured, killed, persecuted every day. There no. Because it never happened. So I checked, and according to the Congress of the National Communities of Ukraine, as for 2021 in Ukraine, there were 20 hate crimes documented in a whole freaking year. 20 hate crimes, 40 plus millions living in a country. 20 hate crimes in a year. I checked the American statistics, okay? So, according to the report of the FBI, as of 2021, 7,262 incidents involving 9,024 victims. Ukraine is so Nazi, guys. Like it's hilarious. And still, guys, I believe that in the U.S. Situation with hate crimes is much more positive in a positive sense, right, than in Russia, because we don't know their statistics. There is some statistics made by OHCHR in, I believe, 2012, but after 2012 they decided to forbid a lot of foreign agents, including different organizations like the World Bank, like, a lot of those, like USAID, of course. That's why it's very hard to collect that data. We know that in 2004, I think, or 2006, there were 500 murders in Russia. We're not talking about the total number of hate crimes, which involve like verbal abuse and stuff. We're talking about murders. So there were 500 murders in the beginning of 2000s in Russia, based on hate crime. So we can compare. Ukraine is the least Nazi country. Like it's a fact. And if you start showing me some random people waving Nazi flags, I will show you 100 pictures of Russian soldiers with Nazi tattoos, leader of Russian mercenaries with Nazi tattoos, former Russian chief of space program attending an anti-Semitic meeting, and a lot of things, because those guys are everywhere, unfortunately. But let's return to to Ukrainian situation. So one of the myths that is, again, very, very popular among Russians is that Ukraine constantly repressed Russian-speaking people in Ukraine. Constantly, like we were torturing them, skinning, eating, and whatever. And I decided to check how many Ukrainian, Russian, and other schools were in Ukraine. Appears that as of September 2021, we had quite a few. Oh my God, it doesn't work. We had quite a few schools that taught Ukrainian kids different languages, and those languages those are the most popular languages in Ukraine that were actually studied by Ukrainian kids: Bulgarian, Crimean Tatar, Moldovan, German, Polish, Russian, Romanian, Slovak, and Hungarian. Those are the most popular languages that were studied by Ukrainian kids basically last year, right? Before the full-scale invasion. And 874 schools were providing Ukrainian kids in studying different languages. 603 schools were offering study in Ukrainian and Russian languages. So basically, 600 and 300 schools were offering kids to study Russian language in Ukraine. How many Ukrainian schools are there in Russia? How do you think? I bet you can guess just like instantly. There's just one answer to this: 0. Okay. Also, they say that people in Donbass were completely Russified, Russian people speaking Russian language, and again, they were tortured and killed and persecuted and stuff. Let's return to 2012. There is a BBC report from Donetsk, and I will translate it for you. So according to BBC journalists that studied this topic, basically, they say that, oh my God, where it is? Okay, according to a study of 2001 in Donetsk, 59% Ukrainians called Russian language their native language, 99% Greeks, 86% Belarusians, 74% Tatars, and 96% of Jewish people. And according to the same study of 2001, 57% of this region was Ukrainians, native Ukrainians. 38% of them were native Russians. 1,240 newspapers and magazines were published in Russian, and 4 of them were Ukrainian. Most of the and actually I can confirm that most of titles of in the shops and stores and malls, names of the streets and whatever, were written in Russian, while you could hear Ukrainian mostly in cultural and educational sphere. That was the situation. Basically, you could speak Russian, you could speak Greek, you could speak German. Nobody freaking cared. But the problem was Russia used this, let's say, popularity of the Russian language as basis for the invasion, and they invaded Donbass only next year. So Ukraine matters here, and by the way, Fanny is here as well. Hello, and Magdalena, and a lot of guys. Jennifer, oh my God. Betsy, very nice to see you guys. So let's return to the topic. Schools in Donbass. So you notice that in 2012, most of this life in Donetsk city that separated forcefully using Russian troops from Ukraine in 2014, people in Donetsk could speak whatever language they wanted, just like today in Kiev. People who support Russian propaganda and Russian terrorism, they keep claiming, AK Crowd here, hi buddy, they keep claiming that all those people, all those Russian people, they were repressed so much during all those years that they decided to separate from Ukraine because they want to save their Russian identity. Funny fact is that until the February 2014, Ukraine was ruled by pro-Russian president who was the biggest lobbyist of Russian language and Russian culture, and he wanted to freaking join with Russia because he was basically controlled by Russians, and he fled to Russia, of course, as a result of the Revolution of Dignity. Nobody repressed or persecuted or tortured Russian people because their president from Donbass, he was Ukrainian president. Oh my God. Anyways, another BS that I've heard was that why I mentioned this is because people confuse the time frames. They think that for years the Donbass was tortured and then they decided to separate. No, it wasn't like that. They separated instantly as soon as Russian forces, including Russian citizen Girkin, Russian citizen, how's his name, that Batman? Arseny Pavlov, Russian citizen Borodai, and others came to Ukraine and basically captured a lot of Ukrainian administrative building, police stations, and stuff like that. A good question from Skirker. If those people wanted to live in Russia, why didn't they move to Russia? It's because Russians believe that if somebody speaks Russian in Alaska, Alaska belongs to Russia. It's like ISIS that say if people speak, if people believe in Allah in, I don't know, Syria, then Syria belongs to ISIS, you know. Again, with all my respect to Muslim people, they don't say that BS, you know. We know that ISIS uses Islam to invade, to attack, to perform their terrorist acts, just the same way as Russians use language. One of the most peaceful things in the world, language, communication, to invade, to attack, to kill, and stuff like that. Okay, then Russian propagandists say that actually it was Azov. Azov, Nazi, tortured and killed thousands of peaceful Russians. And again, they're mixing up like time frames and things like that, because Azov only appeared after the annexation of Crimea and after invasion in Donbass in 2014. Azov only started forming after all this happened. But let's return to Azov. So another myth, and again, I will debunk them together. Another myth is that Azov movement is so big that its racist and Nazi ideology was adopted by the whole armed forces of Ukraine, and we are all Nazi. Everybody who wears uniform, they are all Nazi. I would like to see somebody proving I'm Nazi, but let's check out Azov. Probably there were like hundreds of thousands of those people in Azov, right? So I checked the publication in one of Ukrainian most popular military portal, right? Military news portal. 24th of December 2022. Basically, it was already less than 1 year after the beginning of the invasion. Bobo Uzala asks, what religion are the Azov? Azov are different religion because there are Azerbaijani, that they're Muslim, there are Jewish that are Jewish, Hebrew, what's the... I don't know how to translate this in English. Judei. There are Georgians that are Christians. There's all kind of people fighting in Azov, including atheists, including pagans. Again, why are they Nazi? What makes them Nazi? How many cases of Azov guys killing or even simply beating up people of Muslim religion, Jewish religion, Buddhist religion, black people, Asian people, Jewish people? How many cases were ever recorded officially? Again, you can guess instantly, right? Okay, so returning to Azov, I checked this publication as of 21st of December 2022, which says that Azov announced forming of 3rd Battalion. So until the end of previous year, 2022, there were 2 battalions in Azov, roughly 700 men. Imagine how many civilians theoretically 700 men could kill in Donbass, while they were busy with fighting Russian invaders at the same time. Okay, all right. There's another very, very popular myth, and this one is really interesting one, because there's a lot of BS surrounding this specific myth that is widely used by Russian propagandists. And this myth is called the Alley of Angels. And like, I give me 100% that you definitely heard about Alley of Angels, a memorial in Donetsk dedicated to thousands of Donbass children killed by evil Ukrainian soldiers. So this memorial contains thousands of names of children, right? Again, Ukrainian children, not Russian children, Ukrainian children living in Donbass, right? Um, there's little less than 1,000 names, obviously. And like, I'm not gonna joke here because, all right, dead kids is a tragedy, right? But how many kids were actually killed since 2014 and before 2022? Russian media, again, because they cannot come up with the same number, they claim 60, 90, 100, 150, according to RIA Novosti, Russian media. How many of them were actually there? So we found the most popular picture of this memorial. Guys, this wall, this memorial that you see, those are all the kids, okay, that are allegedly killed by Ukrainian soldiers, right? Those are all the kids. So the most popular photo usually contains around 66 names. And interesting fact was that the most news about this Alley of Angels started appearing 2 months prior to the full-scale invasion. So they started like sharing them like crazy in all the news, like in all the media. So we decided to take a closer look to at this memorial. And here you can see the most recent picture that was taken basically last year. Interesting thing is that those names were missing on the most recent picture because they changed this memorial and this list of names couple of times. And why they changed those names? Some of them were added, but majority were removed. As much as 10 names, it's recorded that they were removed from this list. For example, and there's I can name them. There are Полина Воронова from Konstantinivka, Anastasia Tarapatova, wait a minute, Nadia Kardash, Nikita Karolina Baikina, Dasha Lavrenyuk from Mariupol, etc., etc. They removed a bunch of names. Why did they do that? Let's check out and first question, guys, do those kids even exist? Here's a hint. So, representative of Russian deputy representative of Russians in the United Nations posted this on his Twitter, I believe, and he says, exactly 6 years ago on June, it was a publication that he made 3 years ago. Exactly 6 years ago, on June 8, 2014, the first child, Polina Sladkaya, only 6 years old, died on the Holy Trinity feast day in the Donbass. Ukrainian army opened mortar and artillery fire in the center of Slovyansk. For the first time, the BM-21 Grad reactive rocket launcher was used. Allegedly, she, again, as Russians claim, allegedly she became one of the first children who died during this invasion in Donbass that started in 2014. Funny fact, though, is you see that picture of this girl, right? Funny fact, though, that this girl is not Polina Sladkaya. Her real name is Nastya Lutsishina, and she was Russian. She was killed in Ussurisk, and it's proved 1 million times. She's not Polina Sladkaya, okay? And here we have a publication from Russian media saying that her killer, her murderer of Anastasia Lutsishina, not Polina Sladkaya, was sentenced for 24 and 5 years in prison because he was like a pedophile or something. And he was a cab driver who killed a girl in Ussurisk, in Russia. And this man, representative of Russia in the UN, posted a picture. The one on the left is taken I don't know where, but the one on the right is a different girl. So, the question is, those kids, do they even exist? Did they even exist? Because, again, as for this Polina Sladkaya, you know how when kids are being born and then they're registered in your local administration or town hall, there's zero records on Polina Sladkaya in Ukrainian administration in Sloviansk. I think that you can find a lot of interesting things regarding other names, right? Some of those were, by the way, mentioned as kids that were murdered by Russian soldiers during this invasion in 2014, and they were mentioned by Ukrainian Helsinki organization. Let's move on. NATO expansion. I don't have pictures for that, but we will talk about the NATO expansion. So they claim that Russians were so furious because of NATO expansion. So they invaded Ukraine. First of all, they invaded Ukraine many years before Ukrainians even started talking about joining NATO. Ukraine wasn't a member of NATO. Ukraine wasn't gonna become a member of NATO. And Ukraine only started talking about this seriously last year, basically. We were talking, we were discussing whether we should join or not, but it wasn't serious until last year. We had a lot of mutual exercise with NATO troops, but the fact is, yet in 2012, according to our doctrine, NATO was the potential enemy of Ukraine, according to our doctrine. And before 2012, we had mutual exercise with Russians, with Belarusians, and nobody talked about joining NATO at all. Now we do, of course. They say there are some secret documents that nobody else have seen, except them, of course, that claim that there was an agreement between Gorbachev and between American president that there will be no expansion of NATO. They say not an inch eastwards. There's no document. That doesn't exist. The document that says no expansion of NATO, signed in 1991, 1990, 1989, doesn't freaking exist. There's a bunch of documents that found in mail and stuff, and it's interpreted that some of the Russians have concerns about NATO and stuff. Of course they have concerns about NATO because during the Cold War NATO was their enemy, and the whole Russian bloc was the enemy of the democratic world. Yeah, it's true. But nobody agreed. Gorbachev specifically said in his interview that nobody discussed expansion of NATO. Nobody. In their parallel reality, maybe it happened. But in real world, nothing like that. So why do they say that, like, Russia invaded Ukraine because of NATO? Because it was a good justification. Putin talked about NATO day before his invasion into Ukraine. He talked about NATO. He also talked about Ukraine that never existed, Ukrainians, like inferior Ukrainians that were always part of Russian Empire, that had no culture, no language, no history. Ukraine created by Lenin, who even never visited Ukraine in his whole freaking life. And they also say that, and of course, biolabs, genetically modified birds, mosquitoes, Ukrainian satanists, and things like that. That's what Putin said, except for satanists, we came later. But basically all that BS, because he talked for an hour or something like that. All that was his justification. NATO was not the reason for Russia to invade Ukraine, okay? The real reason was freaking flying geese that were trained to kill Russians. That was the reason they attacked. They attacked because I don't exist. You don't see me. It's an illusion. And I'm not Ukrainian, okay? That's the reason why they attacked. Okay. NATO evil. And guys, like, whenever we start, because it's impossible to talk to them at all. Because whenever we start showing, like, look at Bucha, look at Izum, look at everything they do, you know, every time they say, but America did even worse. Look at America, like, America. You say, dude, we're not talking about America. We're talking about Russian freaking atrocities in Ukraine. Look at America. How many countries were, like, okay, how many territories were annexed by America in, I don't know, 2000s? 90s? How many territories were actually annexed, attached, officially became territory of the United States of America in the 90s or in 2000s, 2010s? I don't know. But I know that Chechnya, Abkhazia, South Ossetia, Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, Ukrainian control, Zaporizhia under Ukrainian control. There was a bunch of territories that Russia actually attached, like, annexed. Oh my God, America. And all they only already changed their tactics because they understand that, you know, Russia is a boogeyman. It's a fact. Iran can go to sleep. Russia is a boogeyman, for real. And they usually go like, yes, Russia is, of course, terrorists. Yeah, they do despicable thing. But those Ukrainians, oh my God! Yes, Russians are terrorists. They invade countries. They kill civilians. They rape. They steal toilets. They loot. They bomb. They destroy. Yeah, it's bad. But those Ukrainians, have you seen what those Ukrainians did? And you're like, what? They're like, they burned 1 million peaceful protesters in 2014 in Odesa. Okay, let's check it out. So, according to Russian myth, 2014 Odessa, peaceful Russian protesters gathered in Odessa to protest against whatever. Everybody protested in 2014 in Ukraine. So these peaceful protesters, pro-Russian guys, those are pro-Russian protesters. You can see those ribbons, okay, and that policeman behind them, he's not arresting them for having a freaking firearms. He's actually supporting them. And the reason for that was because Ukraine was still ruled by pro-Russian president, and those guys have had full protection from our law enforcement agencies and stuff like that. They were guarded by our police, okay, back then. So all those peaceful pro-Russian protesters brought flowers and cakes and flags to Odessa. Of course, they didn't shoot at armed Ukrainian protesters. No. They had no guns, and what you see on this picture is literally an illusion, and you gotta visit a doctor if you see guns, okay? It's not guns, it's flowers. Russians always come with flowers, okay? So those peaceful protesters decided to oppose Ukrainian meeting. Ukrainians had their protest, like pro-Ukrainians, right? They came with flags, they came with, I don't know, phones, cameras to make pictures and videos of that. And that's very important because you will learn in a second. So, and those peaceful pro-Russian protesters, they came with flowers, and they were brutally beaten and killed and raped and tortured and burnt to ashes. And there was a huge fire in this Odessa house. There was like a big palace, and the fire started. And Russians claim that Ukrainians brought Molotov cocktails and killed those people in this house. A lot of them, like everybody died inside. Truth is, why the fire started? The fire started because those not so smart people, okay, aside of the fact that they brought plenty of guns, you saw that on a picture, right? And other things, they brought different stuff to to prepare Molotov cocktails in this house, in this palace that was occupied by them. And something went wrong, and the fire started from the inside, and a lot of people died. They choked on smoke. And as for Ukrainian activists, they were actually freaking saving them, because again, internet doesn't forget anything. Yeah, Murray, it was smoking, exactly. Internet doesn't forget anything, unlike Russian people who can, post such pictures expecting that people will never read those, publications, So let's return to our activists. Those are Ukrainian activists basically saving lives of those stupid idiots that were burning in the Odessa house. Here we can see them creating human chain and saving people that were locked inside of the palace. Those pictures, they are available, but Russian propaganda is based on the fact that people usually don't check facts. You can just say, Ukraine don't bomb us for 8 years and killed million people, and people will believe because people don't check facts. However, everything is so simple. It's as simple as opening Google and looking for whatever you want. So here we can see activists. Activists saving those people that were locked in the burning house. And those are in fact Ukrainian activists, because you can see that woman on the first floor with blue and yellow flag wrapped around her. They were saving them. They were not killing Russian activists that had guns and automatic rifles and Molotov cocktails and who knows what else. And flowers, of course. What did we miss? And oh my god, I was talking for almost an hour. Alley of Angels, peaceful Russian activists, and what makes people Nazi. Basically, this is it. Don't forget to mention the chief of fire department of Odesa, who's opposed to put the fire down and was persecuted in Ukraine, and he flew away to Russia. It's true, and also a lot of policemen that were beating up the protesters during the revolution, they fled to Russia, and now they're beating up Russians. The day when this happened in Ukraine is a mourning day, basically. People think that Ukrainians, celebrating the deaths of those Russian pro-Russian protesters, separatists, basically. No, it's an official mourning day in Ukraine. On this day, we have our flags lowered because we don't care whether those people were pro-Russian or pro-Ukrainian. They were Ukrainian citizens, right? That's why it's a mourning day in it's a official mourning day in Ukraine. Okay? Signed by Ukrainian president. All right. I think we can check out how many Ukrainians were killed on your side from 2014 until the beginning of the invasion. It's a good question. I saw the statistics, but you have to analyze every single death. So there were, again, Russians are claiming that 50,000 people were killed in Donbass by evil Ukrainian forces. According to the report of OHCHR, and I mentioned that in one of my previous videos, this number, 50,000 men, it's a total number of all people who died there, including civilians, servicemen, and Russian terrorists. The amount of Ukrainian casualties is, I think, two or three times lower than the amount of terrorist casualties traditionally. As for civilians, out of this huge number, 50,000 men, a bit more than 3,000 people died, civilian people, on both sides. 2,000 of them died during the first year of Russian invasion in Donbass. It's because in 2014 we had the most active phase of this war. So 2,000 civilians died in 2014, not millions, not even 20. 2,000 civilian people. And they died on both sides, on the controlled Ukrainian territory and uncontrolled pro-Russian territory, right? The territory that was occupied by hybrid Russian troops. Yeah, Sam Parker says, does that 50,000 included non-occupation related deaths? Yeah, exactly. And not all of those 3,000 civilians that died, not all of them died due to active combat. There is huge percent of those people who died because of the remnants of war, like landmines, like hand grenades, like shells that didn't explode and things like that. They found some kind of remnant of war, they brought it home or tried to disassemble it, it exploded and they died. And there's huge number of such casualties. Again, on both sides. So Russians like to, exaggerate, usually like multiply the real number of civilian losses like 1 million times. And of course, they were all kids, But if you check facts, you can realize that actually we can say that some of those kids didn't even exist. Remember what happened in 2014 when they shot down the Boeing MH17? I already forgot like half of those myths that they created. They started with Ukrainian anti-air system that destroyed the Boeing. Then they created this Ukrainian Su-25 that flew at a cosmic altitude, the altitude they usually don't fly at. But again, they changed Wikipedia, that's why it became possible, and shot down that airplane. And then they came up with the coolest... Guys, it was all over Russian TV, I swear. They came up with the coolest version ever. They said that actually all of those people on board of this airplane were already dead. They were like, not like zombies, but like evil America packed a full Boeing. They packed it full of bodies and brought to Ukraine, controlling it remotely, and destroyed it over Donbass to blame Russians. It was like the most popular stuff on a Russian TV, trust me, and everywhere in their media. So, of course, there's the reason why international trial already blames 4 suspects. 3 of them are Russian citizens. The reason for that is that there's plenty evidence that are available for everybody. Online, there are videos and pictures of this anti-air system being delivered from Russia to Ukraine. And again, there's a question, how come this anti-air system arrived to Ukraine? Like, it took a year for Ukraine to receive an anti-air system from our allies. Okay? It's not like you can call your friend Hans and say, Hans, can I borrow your anti-air system and put it in my backyard for a while? I really need it, right? Russians brought this anti-air system like in a couple of months after they invaded Donbass, and they shot down this Boeing and they brought it back to Russia. And investigators already found like names of the crew, okay? Actual names of the freaking crew of this anti-air system. Russians cannot prove anything except for spreading disinformation and propaganda. And again, it was it was insane, guys. It was noticed and recognized by the European Parliament that all this catastrophe, all this tragedy with this Boeing MH17, it was freaking surrounded with tons and tons of Russian-produced BS and disinformation. Martin Girkin was one of them. Yeah, exactly. And who's Girkin? Girkin is like also known as Strelkov, also known as Dyrkin in Ukraine. He's an FSB freaking agent, Russian citizen who arrived to Crimea and then he arrived, and he helped to annex Crimea, basically. And then he arrived to Donbass together with the other Russian citizens, okay? And because they took control over different facilities like town halls and stuff with arms. They actually broke in with arms. They took down Ukrainian flags and put those, installed those Russian flags. And of course, looking at that, Russians say, oh, it was a peaceful revolution. People of Donbass. Interesting thing, people of Donbass. Until 2014, there were no people of Donbass. There were Ukrainians. Of course, there are different regions in Ukraine. Our culture is very rich because in every region of Ukraine, there are different people living, right? With their traditions, with their dialects, with their, some specific things only they do, okay? Some things that are only specific to those people, like Hutsuls, West Ukraine, those Highlanders, Ukrainian Highlanders, like Crimean Tatars, Muslim people living in Crimea. A lot of them became refugees, of course, since 2014 and moved deeper to Ukrainian controlled territory. Different people, Greeks, Germans, Georgians, you name it, Jewish, a lot of people. But there was nothing that separated people of Donbass. Completely, you couldn't say that they had a different religion. No. They were as orthodox as other people in Ukraine. They had different ethnicity, maybe? No. They had just the same local ethnicity. People in villages and rural territories of Donbass, majority speaks Ukrainian. Because this is the legacy from the Soviet Union, right? People in villages mostly speak Ukrainian because they brought it through generations. People in cities of Donbass spoke Russian, majority, okay? But they were the same people. They would stand for Ukrainian national football teams. They sang Ukrainian anthem during football matches and other sports competitions. They were always Ukrainian. They fought in bars with Russians who used to say that you are part of Russian people. Guys, Russians would be beaten up for that. So they weren't separate. There's nothing in our history that makes those people separate. They suffered from Holodomor that artificially created by Russians, famine in 1932, 1933, as well as other people, as well as the rest of Ukrainians. They went through the same war, World War II, World War I, Bolshevik Revolution. They suffered together with the rest of us because they were us, okay? There's nothing that makes them different. Not even language. Because, again, in Ukraine you can speak whatever language you want. So the result of this, Russians were screaming about, repressions of Russian people. And again, we started with Ukrainian Nazi, and when asked, how many Muslims, Jews, black people, Asians were repressed in Ukraine, the Russians usually say, Russians were repressed. which is again like a bullshit, because Ukraine until 2014, beginning of 2014, was mostly ruled by pro-Russian politicians. And the amount of Russian books, Russian movies, Russian music, Russian TV shows, and everything Russian only proves that it's Ukrainian language that was repressed, actually. So returning to this question, they say, it's because you hate everything Russian. What's the reason? What's the reason to hate everything Russian? And the answer to this question is basically, look at Ukraine now. Everything that Russians were talking about, like, you hate everything Russian just because we are so good, they have it now. They were lying about this Russophobia for a freaking decade. And they have it now. And I think it's well deserved. So, Garth asks, is the Iron Cross going to be left on the German tanks you will use? This Iron Cross on German tanks is something that makes Russians hysterical. Trust me. Like, whenever they see German crosses on German tanks, they go, look at that. It proves everything. Europe is overwhelmed by Nazis, So we'll probably keep it. Mark Snyder, Zelensky from Kryvyi Rih grew up speaking Russian and learned Ukrainian in 2017. It's true. I'm not sure when exactly did he learn Ukrainian, but Russian was his native language. Again, when he became a president of Ukraine, elected president of Ukraine, he learned Ukrainian language because in Ukraine, according to our constitution, president must be a protector of Ukrainian culture. And he does a great job, I think. And I think that eventually we won't hear him talking Russian, or if we will, it will be on a very rare occasion. Jenny, nobody is afraid of Russia. Russophobia, we just don't like barbarians. Exactly. And we must admit that there are different types of barbarians. They don't really... barbarianism is not actually based on any specific culture or nation or ethnicity or race. But it's just the fact is the concentration of them in Russia is just very, very big. Andrew, speak German to troll them. Oh yeah, we gotta learn some phrases. I honestly want to learn German language, but it looks a bit complicated. But I gonna try. Privateer says the Iron Cross symbol goes back to 1813, based from the Teutonic Cross. Yeah, and they had some badass armor and symbolics in total. Bobo, do you think President Zelensky will be leading the European Union in another 5 years? Actually, I expected to lead European Union, but I can gladly pass my seat to President Zelensky. Has the latest Russian offensive started? Digby, yeah, we see signs of it starting. They increased their activities in 3 main directions in Donbass, as well as shelling of the bordering regions of Ukraine, Chernihiv and Sumy. So we can say that it's it didn't start at full scale, but it is starting. It's in the process of starting. Sparty. Zwei Bier. Oh, this one, nice. Yeah, I will remember this one. Can you explain Russian 21 roses? 21 roses. Just a second. 21 roses. 21 roses means that the my brain hurts. According to Russian folklore, giving your woman 21 roses means that you love her above everything. 27 roses mean that her husband loves her a lot. 29 roses is a sign of eternal love, and 36 roses is like wishing so every day was happy and cheerful. But like 36 roses, you don't really give your wife, or you don't give living person 36 roses, because it's an even number and it's wrong. We bring even number of flowers to a funeral. Oh, Jürgen says, learning German is easy if you ignore the language. Harmless. Let's start our German lesson now. Ukraine will win. Why not? What kind of cool phrase in German can I say to make German people instantly like me? Tell me about it in the chat, please. Isn't 21 Roses some kind of torture by orcs? I don't know. There is one very stupid song called Белые розы. It's very old, and people like it, like post-Soviet people like it, because it reminds them of, that Soviet nostalgia and stuff like that. But it's so bad. Oh my. Oh, ein Bier bitte. I think it's like zwei Bier sounds better. Ich liebe Ukraine. Do you say? I think you pronounce Ukraine differently in German. Ich liebe Ukraine. Ich liebe Deutschland. Oh, ich liebe Deutschland. The best sausage is the best sausage is the worst. Uh, Oh, ich liebe die Autobahn. Actually, actually, Autobahn is something that I would like to see in Ukraine as well, because yeah, because we just started building roads in Ukraine as soon as this invasion began. Like everybody was so happy that you could arrive from point A to point B without buying a new car, you know. When did you start learning to speak English? Mark, it happened in 2000. 2000. It happened in 1992, I think. Maybe 1993. So my process of learning English, and it's a true story, it began with, let me show you this creature because it's so cool. You're gonna love the story, guys. So my process of oh, I downloaded a different image. It's not something I wanted to do. Yeah, my process of learning English became with this. Oh, he ran away. With this funny creature called Muzzy, and Muzzy was an alien, and he arrived to Earth, and he, because he was an alien, he consumed clocks and watches and other stuff. So he arrived to Ukraine, and then there was this crazy love story between Princess Alicia and her boyfriend Bob the gardener, and this dude. So Bob got busted. He went straight into jail, where he met Muzzy, and Muzzy taught him how to be cool, you know, and they formed a kick-ass gang, and they terrorized people from East Coast to West Coast UK. So basically, when I was a young kid, I liked watching this movie because cartoon, because it was hilarious, and because I really liked Kovacs. Kovacs was genius, and he was so smart. When I was a little boy, I wanted to be like Kovacs. And he also liked this Alicia, and if I was Alicia, I would pick Kovacs. Because, you know, he has like long nose, and, you know, he can do stuff. Anyways, so this is how I learned English when I was a small kid. Is that an orc in a camo suit? That's my... No. Wait a minute. It looks like he's wearing like this Russian analog of ghillie suit, you know? It's called kikimora. But it's a different thing. Totally, it's not kikimora. It's a legit ghillie suit. Oh, Ukraine is in German pronounced Ukraine. Ukraine. Ich liebe Ukraine. And also, ich liebe Deutschland. Oh, Daughter of Texas. Love the Autobahn too. Draw on it at 120 miles per hour. It's so cool. I don't really drive fast because the only thing I used to drive prior to my car was BTR3, and you cannot drive it fast because you will make a lot of problems. So first tree I destroyed in village of Stare was because I was driving a BTR, and I nearly killed a horde of cows in Zolochi where we were training to operate BTR, but it was so cool. Who placed those cows there, anyways? So yeah, I'm the most cautious driver in the world. Oh, William says, you gotta come to Hanover. My best bro works at an Autobahn restaurant right next to the city. There's a lot of Ukrainian truck drivers coming every day. I would love to become a truck driver in the end of my career. Daughter of Texas, Muzzy. I remember this. How? Why do you remember Muzzy? I mean, it's like English for foreigners, right? Or am I missing something? Does Ukraine want the Swedish Gripen aircraft? Is it good? It's awesome. I think that one of the best airplanes that we can receive, basically. Roman Stingler, BTR simulator pre-order now. Actually, it's true because I don't know if I mentioned this, but I wanted to create like a rival for the World of Tanks and call it a World of BTR. And my game would be much cooler because I would include my sergeants as characters in this game, okay? And characters would be generated randomly. So each character would have his own like skills and perks. For example, when your BTR is generated with my god, what was his call sign? Anyways, Vitalik. Okay, so Vitalik was one of my drivers. When this BTR is generated with Vitalik, you have advantage because he's perfect driver. He's like very smart as a mechanic, but you gotta be cautious because if there is a bump somewhere, like and your BTR jumps, then you may lose Vitalik because he can just strike the hatch with his head and go out. Then if this BTR is spawned with let's say Yukhnevich was my other driver, then the whole crew before going on a mission, they gotta find Yukhnevich because he's in a village nearby, making love to a local girl, and they gotta find him. It's like a side quest, bring him to the BTR, and then they can go on a mission. And if a commander of BTR is Tyaj, so Tyaj is like good, like big guy, good and big guy. That's why this BTR is like you can drive this BTR without him, and he will be running around because he's too big to fit inside of BTR, and he will be running around like tactically hiding behind bushes and trees and finding cover and things like that. So my game would be perfect. It would be fantastic, and I'm currently looking for. Uh, I'm currently looking for people who can make computer games. I'm not looking for donations, and you shouldn't respond to people, even if it's me, asking you for donations. Because this lady that pretends to be me on Instagram strikes again. I receive around 10 messages every day from people saying, I was scammed. And the funniest thing is that sometimes she even sends like a voice message saying, hello. And yeah, and you gotta include cows. 100%. I will include cows because they gotta be there. They can provide your crew with milk. Also, you can domesticate, even though they're domesticated technically, but you can hire them as your support, let's say. And yeah, it's a good idea actually. Cows. Oh, and you will have your own currency in the world of BTR. It will be soldiers' tiers. And depending on the amount of soldiers' tiers, you can order some kind of stuff. For example, your chief technician can create cast like a spell, on the enemy BTR, and this BTR will break, and they will have to spend time on repairing it. And there will be plenty of things. Like I already wrote them down, and I have them with me. Do you already have any idea in what role you can use the Leopard 1? Leopard 1 can be used during offensive operations. They can also be used, and I think that it will be a more proper idea, to defend our positions and to defend our cities, basically. So they will be used, trust me. Killer Rabbit says, I nearly hit an entire elk herd at midnight at 12,000 feet in Rocky Mountain National Park. With an airplane? Or were you just hiking? I see you. Like Mountain National Park. Okay, sorry. Because because I like Microsoft Flight Simulator so much, I thought you were like at Echelon 120, following a suspicious elk herd. Okay. Jim Martin says, make the game yourself with Unreal Engine. I think I can do that. I can do that in Blender. Oh, Commander 401 here. Hi, buddy. I'm getting an idea for another animation. Penguin Starsky driving a BTR into a cope. For sure. That's gonna be legit. Trust me. Can you add borscht to the game so tankists can eat it? That is perfect. That is perfect. There will be borscht, there will be tushonka. Tushonka is basically like canned meat. Like meatball, not like meatballs, like canned meat. Meat in the cans. and it will be of a different quality. So for example, there will be a risk that if you buy pork tushonka from some specific factory, your guys will poop in the BTR and or get poisoned, you know. I gotta do that, guys. I mean, I gotta find something that I don't have, which is time, and probably dedicate a bit of it to this game, because I'm dreaming about it. I even had wait a second. I think I have it here. Just 1 second, please. I had it on my Facebook. Yes, I have Facebook, but unfortunately it's only in Ukrainian. Yeah, here it is. Oh my god. So, exactly 5 years ago, I wrote the first concept of this game. And here you can see the concept art that I created. And this guy is an actual BTR driver from my platoon. And there you can see it says World of BTR, your bunny shashlik. Your bunny shashlik, you usually don't say if there are kids around, because it means something ugly but funny at the same time in Ukrainian language. So World of BTR, your bunny shashlik. And there was like a huge concept, like intro movie, and yeah, and some people even decided to pre-order the game. I agreed, of course. So that's the idea. That will be more popular than the World of Tanks, trust me. Your bunny shashlik, yeah, it sounds like your bunny shashlik. Again, like, don't say it in a polite society, okay, because it sounds ugly. But we're soldiers, we can do that. Yeah, Ali says my interview with Fanny Butler on Friday, and Friday is tomorrow. Friday is the day after tomorrow. Yeah, so it was a really cool interview. Actually, I really enjoyed it. I think it was one of my longest ones, because before that she talked to Brandon for like 1.5 hours, and I decided that at least in this I gotta be better than Brandon, so we talked for more than 2 hours, I think. Have you used the X-Plane Flight Simulator? I did before Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. And the reason why Microsoft Flight Simulator is better than X-Plane, in my opinion, is because it uses Bing Maps, which is why everything you see in this game exists in the real life, even though it's a bit different, or might be a bit different. And in X-Plane, you had to add 1 million add-ons to make it look realistic. Other than that, it's a nice game. So President Zelensky came to London today. Great speech in Westminster Hall. I would love to see Westminster Hall when this war ends. I really do. I would like to travel to the UK 100%. Andre Silva, do you think that that camel that killed the Russian was genetically modified? I think he was like decent, okay? Um, I think it was a decent camel. Do you think you'll get the Eurofighter? Hoops, if we're getting Eurofighters, I quit YouTube and I become a pilot. I swear. Because Eurofighter was my favorite computer game back in 2000s, I think. And I freaking love those airplanes. They're so nice and beautiful. And they have that beach in Helga's voice inside. So, yeah. How's Fudge? Fudge is doing great. I think that. Wait a second. I have this fear, big fear that uh, I forgot to let him in. I gotta check after this stream. Um, Benny, I got told it was a Ukrainian camel. No. It was just a normal camel. Believe me, like all normal beings do that. Where was this camel? Nancy, it was in Telegram. I saw it on Telegram. A lot of people were laughing at it. Um, China, does deoccupy mean fighting for you guys? Yeah, it literally means deoccupying those territories from Russian invaders. And basically, it means that we have to eliminate a lot of invading personnel. Uh, it's a big challenge for us, actually, because we already eliminated the amount of troops that were brought to Ukraine in the beginning of the invasion. I think we actually made even more losses because 130,000 were eliminated and 3 times as much were wounded, basically. But they're bringing more, so we will have to spend more time and improve them as well, so it will be a big challenge. But at the same time, guys, Ukraine receives more weaponry, more vehicles, more tanks. Our military might grows, basically. Russian military might deteriorates because they lost 3,000, more than 3,000 tanks during the first day when basically Ukraine had nothing except for huge storage of anti-tank weaponry like javelins and NLAWs. But still, even having like 20 times more artillery than Ukraine, they lost so bad. And I think that manpower will not help them because even though it's the man who actually captures territory and takes control over territory, but long-range artillery matters a lot. And currently Ukrainian artillery can fire at much longer distances and much more precisely than Russian artillery. Johan van Zanten says, "Pora spati, stay safe. Good night, buddy." Level 70, do you have enough ammo to eliminate all of them? Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully, yeah. How's the situation in the north right now? Mia, the situation is following. We know that Russians bring their anti-air systems to Belarus. We know that they are training some personnel there, but this personnel is not enough to even take an average sized town. So we don't see them preparing an attack anytime soon, but I'm still convinced that it will happen. And again, oh, Rudy Ruchel here. Hi, buddy. Hello, hello. Again, I'm convinced. I will be happy to be wrong. But I believe that they will attack from Belarus. You can laugh at me later if they don't attack. You have all the rights to do that. There will come a time Ukraine has more artillery power as the ammunition keeps coming from NATO. Exactly. Greetings from Gdansk. Gotta admit your English with strong Russian accent is hilarious. Dziękuję bardzo. So here we have Dexter. Hello again. Witam. Do you think that Belarus will join the war? I think that they will, because I was analyzing, messages coming from Belarus. They were constantly messaging, and it was, I think, around autumn or beginning of autumn, something like that. They were constantly accusing Ukraine of attempting to invade Belarus, basically. And they were delivering their notes of protest to Ukrainian ambassadors and things like that. So just analyzing that, I can see that there is a reason for them to do that, right? Warszawa też ogląda. To bardzo dobrze jest. Oh, wait a second. You need to include Sparky projects. You need to include a raccoon in World of BTR as the mascot that the other side tries to capture. There will be like a small dog. There will be a small ginger dog, not Fudge, but another one, because he comes from the Wait a second, I have something to show you. Um, there will be another dog, and you gonna love him. So, where is my Facebook? It it is so cool. It's classy. But I cannot find it. Here it is. I have this huge album, and it is so old. Okay, I found a picture, and here it is. So this dog will be there in the. Oh my god! It ran away. This dog will be there in the game, and the whole composition, and you will totally love this, looks like this. So for some period of time, because each soldier is like a bit hobo, right? Uh, I shared my kitchen at my positions, and that's a picture from 2017, with this dog. And of course, I gave him the most cozy place, which was this chair that was found in like in a garbage. But anyways, it was a good chair, and this dog liked to spend his time together with us because Ukrainian soldiers are the most animal-friendly people in the world. So I took this picture in 2017 at my positions near the Svetlodarsk Bulge. Golden Retriever. I don't think it's a Golden Retriever. Rather, it's a Ukrainian stray ginger. Oh, GMVS. Why does Ukraine kill civilians on Donetsk? Because it doesn't. Dmitry Levchuk, how many languages do you speak? I speak English, Ukrainian, a bit Russian, a bit Polish. I knew how to speak Italian, but I forgot it completely. And a bit Farsi, like I was learning for a while. And what else? And also today I learned how to say Ich liebe Deutschland. MTB, what's your current mission and can you say where you're located? No need to specify, just curious if you're in danger. I can give you my coordinates, but I'm located in Hostomel. I'm working for communication strategy for my brigade, and am I in danger? Unless there is highly improbable but unfortunate missile strike, I don't think I'm in danger. On the other hand, though, situation may change if they attack Ukraine again from the territory of Belarus. I will be there, and if I'm called to the front lines, I will be there. And because I'm a good shooter, I would love to be there. Do you know what is Zelensky doing now in France? I think he does something that I cannot do. Specifically, and I really hope that he does it. Specifically, I think that he can try some great French cuisine. And maybe some wine, but I doubt that he will. Microbase Studio, heroes of Hostomel turned tide of early invasion. First, I would not call us heroes. And second, yeah, it looks like that. But at the same time, we didn't think about this specific battle to be crucial. For some reason, like we did what we wanted, like we did what we had to do. That's all. Starsky, any truth to Russians banning YouTube on the 28th? I think it was a fake, but I have something very cool for you guys. So let me just find it here because it's completely amazing and hilarious. Oh my god. I found a different one, but it was cool. Damn it. I think I saved it somewhere else. No, I saved it somewhere else. So, Russia officially banned access to OnlyFans. And this will just increase the level of overall depression in that region. I mean, it was heartless. How could they do that? It's despicable. Possible attack from Belarus to Lviv. Lou, I think they will try to attack towards Volhynia region, and if they have enough people, and I'm talking about like 200 men to take control over Volhynia, then they can try and move towards Lviv to cut the supplies from Lviv to the rest of Ukraine. But Ukraine is too big. I mean, like, Ukraine is huge. And even though comparing to the whole Russian country, it's not as big, but it's second biggest country in Europe. Rival, how you call it? Rivaling. Competing with France. Ukraine is very big, and like it's a failed attempt to do that. Michael, we need to get Starsky into a Eurofighter. Actually, I will build it myself. I have like some spare parts there in the backyard from Russian kit aircraft. And if something is left, I will. I like it. Yeah, I just. No, wait. If I file it off, I will have Lada. I think I will need to order some additional parts from our Russian kit builders. Okay, there's a very nice question. Level 70, how many of the Russian elite forces are still alive? I don't think a lot of them are alive. Basically, maybe like 90% were eliminated during the first month because of this stupid Russian planning. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce your name correctly. I think it's Azivegu. Azivegu. When the war started, did you think the government would have failed and you left the country? And how did Zelensky influence you and your and others' motivation? Nobody, and I'm talking about military personnel, nobody thought that our government is gonna like collapse. It was kind of funny because the day I think Pentagon, was it Pentagon? Some Pentagon speaker. I think I might be wrong though. The day he said in the media, he had like a press conference. The day he said in this press conference that we can provide Ukrainian president with shelter, and we can also provide Ukrainian army with all the means and supplies for the guerrilla warfare. And we laughed like crazy. Me and my buddy, press officer from another brigade, we were laughing like crazy. Like guerrilla war, like partisan warfare. Are you serious? Like why? And the reason for that is because whole Ukrainian history is a history of Ukrainian partisans fighting versus Russians. It started centuries ago. Actually, first battle between Ukraine and Russian invaders, of course, because Ukraine invaded Russia 0 times, except for some punishing operations. First combat between Russian invaders and Ukrainians happened around 1,000 years ago. So many centuries, Ukrainian partisans, as well as in 20th and 20th century, they fought Russians and basically rest of the world that didn't know much about Ukraine. They got used that there will be Russian occupiers and NKVD and KGB and things like that. And of course, there will be Ukrainian partisans, like in every village, hunting those Russians and, like we always did. But now it's a completely different story because we have our independence and we will not let anybody take it away from us. So when they were saying that on a TV, it sounded so funny, like we appreciated it big time, but it was wrong. Yeah, guys, buffering is normal because we are broadcasting from Ukraine. And actually, guys, a question from Maria. Were you a policeman in 2014 while the revolution happened? Actually, no. Actually, I was fighting against the police. And funny thing is that in the end of 2014, I became the policeman. But it was so cool because, again, because Ukraine was ruled by pro-Russian governments and presidents for quite a while, we got used to the fact that Ukrainian people, Ukrainian patriots, people who oppose this Russian influence into Ukraine, they would get beaten a bit better because our people were never afraid of protesting. But it could join military or police, like law enforcement and stuff. It was crazy to see a real Ukrainian policeman wearing a police patch and Ukrainian flag and arresting some kind of Russian terrorist. That you could not imagine that. In the beginning of 2014, that would be completely impossible because police was supporting those terrorists, basically. In the summer 2014, everything changed because Russia invaded into Crimea, into Donbass, and Ukraine, because our army was ruined by the pro-Russian government that ruled Ukraine, we had to instantly create voluntary battalions that would hold Russian troops until our army is rebuilt. That's why we had a lot of voluntary battalions, and I served in one of them. And it was a police battalion. Basically, why it was cool? It was cool because I could fight Russian terrorism, like external threat, right? Russian invaders. And I could also fight crime, which was so cool. So that was the reason why I joined like police special force. And that's the reason why I'm still in the National Guard, because National Guard has some functions of law enforcement in Ukraine. That's why we can fight both versus invaders, terrorists, and criminals. And I hate criminals. Who made your logo and how did it come to be? I did it myself, actually. There's nothing special behind it. Inkboy, honest question. Why the heck Russia invaded Ukraine in 2014 when Ukraine was so much pro-Russia? That's a good question, okay? And the answer to this question is because this is what they do. Like, if you ask Russians, like, what is the reason to invade Ukraine and kill civilians, they will, if you meet an honest Russian, he will say, yes. That is exactly the reason. This is what we do. Okay, guys, I think we can call it a day. And I'm gonna go and have myself some coffee because I still have a lot of tasks. It's like I wanted to have 2 additional streams yesterday and the day before yesterday, but I was a bit overloaded with tasks, unfortunately. Because other than my video blog, I still have my military duty. Okay, sorry about the lag. Once again, blame Mr. Elon Musk. He's the one to blame here. Even though Starlink is amazing piece of equipment, but its upload speed is killing me. Alrighty, thank you so much for joining. Don't forget not to donate to Starsky. Don't do this. If Starsky is messaging you, like ever messaging you asking to donate for saving kids, stray animals, and whatever, just call police, okay? Because I don't do that. And thank you so much for being awesome. Thank you for not being insulted by my dark jokes sometimes, because we're militaries and we always do that. And have a good night or good day or whatever time you have there. My name is Operator Starsky. As always, thanks for watching. See you later.